01582 48182, or WhatsApping us on 07779 48182.
You can also join us on Facebook Live, where we live to see your thoughts on the comment section, and we also are on TikTok and Instagram. We'd love to hear your thoughts. So I'd like to just have a very warm welcome to Farah and Samrah. So in today's show, we'll be discussing about their successful careers, and I'm just going to do a quick introduction of them. So Samrah, she has had 7 years of experience in the tech industry. She has worked with giants like IBM, Colt Technology Services, and ServiceNow partners. She has worn many hats, excelling in product management, inside sales, strategic sales, and is been working in marketing over the last years. Currently, she's making waves as a marketer in the non-profit Chartered Insurance Institute, and we're very pleased to have her on board. So very warm welcome to you, Samrah. Thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Excellent. And Farah, we also I've been joined with Farah, who is also working in sorry, I think there is technical difficulties. So Farah also has 4 years experience in cybersecurity, and she has worked across 4 different industries, and she works in telecommunications and consulting. So again, thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to having this really robust discussion about Muslims in the workplace. I think we all can, as working professionals, I think it's very important to highlight the experiences that we have, but also talking about the challenges we're confronted with. So before we even delve into the main topic, we have this segment called Thought of the Week, where we talk about something insightful, a reflection, or even a personal anecdote. And I'm going to start off with Farah to share her Thought of the Week for this show.
I think for me is sometimes you can do things quietly in the background rather than kind of shouting out about it loudly and still get things done.
That's a very, very short but very pertinent Thought of the Week. Alia, what is your Thought of the Week?
I think my Thought of the Week kind of links in with the topic, and it's that your life doesn't start at 18 years old. That's just not where it starts.
That's interesting. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of pressure once you come out of college and once you finish high school that, you have to choose your career, and this is where you start and this is where you end, and so forth and so forth. But it's not really, like you can choose what you want to do now, and if that's not what you want to do later, you can choose whatever.
Yeah, I think that's something that we've talked in multiple shows in terms of, I think in school you're kind of forced to kind of pick one career route, but actually once you leave university or once you leave college, you understand about transferable skills. And even if I reflect on my own experiences, I did a literature degree and then I went to finance. So I think a lot of people kind of think that there's only one route that you can take, but that's not the case. And I think through this show, hopefully we'll be discussing and dispelling some of these myths. Samrah, could you tell us your Thought of the Week?
So my Thought of the Week is that during hard times, the moments do pass, and in all of our hard times right now, this too will pass, inshallah. So
I think we're having Samrah, I think we're not able to hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, that sounds perfect. Sorry about that. Could you repeat that? I think we lost you.
Yeah, no, sorry about that. So my Thought of the Week is, it was actually something that someone said to me today, that I was just talking to them about a hard time, and they said that this too will pass. And it is very true. We often forget when we're in difficult situations that we will make it out at the end and the moments will pass.
I think that's very relevant, especially if you're in whatever kind of aspect you are in your life. Sometimes we get very bogged down with kind of the granular details, but sometimes we forget that actually this is all very temporary. And as we know in Islam, with hardship there's ease, and we know that's guaranteed. And I think as human beings, we're accustomed to thinking about having certainty, and this life is very uncertain. And so we know that Allah is going to take care of us, and we know the outcome is with Him in our despair. that's all we can take care of. So thank you for sharing that very insightful thought of the week. My thought of the week is just very simple, it's very basic. Go get some sunshine. I think it's a very lovely weather. I know it's been raining the last few days, but I think since there's more daylight compared to winter now, I think it's really important to take care of your well-being. And I think having that exposure to nature is very, very important. And I think we're talking about Muslims in the workplace, but I think one of the things that we should also discuss is about the well-being aspect in terms of how do we take care of ourselves when we're sitting, especially if you're working in desk jobs. And I know earlier you're doing placements in the hospital, so that's a separate discussion that we would have. I think it's really important to go actually get some sunlight, because I think for us as human beings, we need to ensure that we're having that contact with nature. And I think there's so much research suggesting how important it is in terms of even in terms of vitamin D and making sure that we get that, and also in terms of just walking outside and taking care of our well-being and our health. So my thought of the week really is just how to get a walk in. Recently, I've just updated my phone in terms of the health app, and just looking at my steps is motivating. So just try to kind of incorporate some of healthy habits in your routine and just try to get outside. I think really take advantage of this, because I know in winter a lot of the times we just stay at home because it's too cold. So I definitely would encourage everyone just try to get out. Okay, so that is our segment of thought of the week. Now we'll be moving on to a segment that we do only exclusively with our guests, just to just warm them up. So this segment we'll be asking would you rather questions, just to kind of warm people. Let's start off with Samrah. So the first question I have for you is, would you rather always speak your mind or never be able to speak again?
Oh, it's such a hard one. I would rather always speak my mind. And the reason I say that is by nature, I like to think I'm someone who stands up for injustice. So I would want to speak up for people and elevate the voices as well as my own. And I think that that's a pivotal part of also like who I am, and also how we can also better the world and our societies. So I would rather not be silenced.
That's amazing. I think I can resonate with that. I think, especially earlier, once you get into the workplace, you realize how important it is not to be censored, to be able to take care, to be able to kind of be unapologetic about your identity. And I think that we're going to be discussing that. So thank you for sharing that. Alia, I have a question. Because of the last question, would you rather know the truth about everything or be able to forget anything you want?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably forget everything, like forget whatever I want to forget. I feel like there's a lot of responsibility, and there's a lot of, like, I don't want to say pain. I want to say there's just a lot of hardship with knowing everything. You have to take accountability of what you know or what you don't know. But when you choose to forget, it puts you just easier position in this life. Honestly, I said it's temporary. Rather make it easier and get to the next life easier, rather than choose the hard route.
That's interesting. Farah, what's your thoughts on that? What's in terms of that question?
So can you repeat that?
Yeah, I can repeat that. So, would know the truth about everything or be able to forget anything you want?
I think forget everything that I want. I think you just have an easier life rather than holding on to like negative emotions.
Yeah, like silly little things.
Yeah.
Interesting. Samrah, I'm quite curious to hear your thoughts on this.
I actually agree with both. So I would rather probably forget everything, because I think, as rightly pointed out, it would probably ease some harder feelings that we face as humans, especially where pain is prevalent. But equally, I'm going to play devil's advocate and say I might want to know everything, so then I'm kind of in the know and aware of the truths of the world and the truth of things around me. It's a tough question, to be honest. You benefit from both.
Yeah, I think there is advantages and disadvantages, but interestingly, I would actually rather know the truth about everything. I think forgetting anything you want, I feel like the lessons that I've learned that are ready to develop and to become robust, if I had the option to forget it because of the imminent pain that I had, I think I would just choose to forget it. But actually, I wouldn't have hindsight, and I think for me, having hindsight is for me to kind of develop. So I think whilst knowing the truth of everything also has its drawbacks because you're just always going to be aware of everything. And I think sometimes that's quite heavy, especially if you're exercising emotional intelligence and you just know everyone else's pain. That can be quite heavy, and you have to be really you have to have the ability to draw boundaries. I think forgetting everything wouldn't help me personally. So that was quite interesting to hear all your thoughts on that. Okay, I'm gonna say that maybe a little bit more like question. I'll start with you, Samrah. Would you rather have spaghetti hair, or would you rather have maple syrup sweat? Which is a bit of a funny question, but have a think.
I would rather have spaghetti hair. I had to think because I genuinely don't like maple syrup as well. The sweet and the stickiness is too much. Whereas with spaghetti, I suppose if it's dry, maybe you can handle it. Yeah, I don't know. Oh God, yeah, and it's up there, so you can kind of get rid of it. So and like tie it up and set it aside. But sweat, no, no, no.
I like how you thought that through. Anya, what would you say?
I just go bold. You know, I wouldn't have spaghetti. But then I'm thinking about it, and you have hair everywhere. It's a bit
Yeah.
like you have spaghetti everywhere. I mean, is it like cooked spaghetti? The maple syrup and sweat, is that like?
You think about the consistency.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about.
Oh.
This is a hard one. This is harder than the last question. I'm gonna go for the maple syrup. As weird as that sounds, because I feel like it'd break me out. No, it wouldn't. That's the opposite of what I'm saying. I don't know.
Tough question.
What about you, Mary?
I think spaghetti hair. I think I'd cut it all off.
You just go bold.
That's the solution for me, and I'm a hijab. So
You
that's
look cute bold.
I think it will work for me. Farah, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I'd be spaghetti here.
Yeah, I think we're very conscious, and we had maple syrup sweat. Okay, so another question I have for you is, would you rather be able to change one decision from your past, or have the power to predict one decision in your future? I will start with Samrah.
See, going back to your point earlier about learning from the past and like from lessons in life, I'd like to think I wouldn't change anything from the past. As much as depending on the day, it would probably alter. But if I could make a decision for the future, maybe, yeah, I would change that. I think so. And it's because I don't know what the future holds, where I've already seen and done the past. Depends.
Very fair point. Farah, what's your thoughts?
I think being able to change a decision in the past. I think because that can obviously change your future.
That's very interesting. Is there anything particular you're thinking about that made you come to that conclusion?
No, I'm just thinking, for example, if you made a decision and you've done something in this life and you feel like, you know what, if I change something in the past, and my life could have been in a different direction.
Interesting. Alia, what's your thoughts?
I think we're changing stuff in the past. I feel like that's just. I don't know. I don't think I would choose that option. I think I would change something in the future. I mean, it'd be nice to change stuff that's happened in the past, but if I did, like, I feel like my life would be completely different to how it is now, because I know there'd be one decision that I would make and it would just change everything. In regards of, like, do we get to choose a decision in the future, like what the decision is about, or is it just like this
one? It's quite open-ended, so it's really up to you.
I mean, if there was one decision in the future that I knew for sure that I could change, then yeah, maybe the question, like I'd lean more towards the future rather than the past.
Yeah, I think for me as well. I think for me, I don't want to change the past. I think it's made me who I am today. Mm-hmm. So, but then as well, if you have knowledge of your future, I think feel like I would be so fixated in trying to make it so perfect. Yeah. So it's a difficult one. Okay, yeah. My next question is: would you rather have the ability to talk to animals, or be able to speak to every human language fluently? Samrah, what's your thoughts?
Do you know what? I was going to say the first one until you gave me the second option, because sometimes in this world, animals seem better than humans at this point. But then to be able to communicate with people all around the world, I think that's absolutely amazing. Imagine the stories, imagine even the history that you would come to know, and the lessons and people's paths that you could imagine, the inspiration you could take from people. So I would rather have the latter, and imagine how many people you could help. yeah, I think that would be a superpower in itself.
I agree. I completely concede with that point. Farah, what's your thoughts?
I agree with Samrah. I think being able to speak every language, because you can communicate with everyone, and like Samrah said, the stories will be great.
Oh. I think I'd talk to animals, to be honest. I don't think I'd choose the languages question. I don't really know how many people I would talk to in my whole life. Like, will I even get around to talk to more than 4 people? No, probably not. But I think definitely talk to animals. I'd like to see their perspective on certain things.
What kind of things would you ask if you could speak to an animal?
I'd ask my cat where he goes.
Ah.
Where he goes. Where do you go every night? What do you do when you come home? You know, how do you feel in the bus? Just see. I feel like animals are so pure. Like it's weird, but they're so pure. I'd like to know how my fish think. What foods they like.
I think you undermine how much emotions animals have and how much they can actually empathize with you. Recently, like one of my friends, her father passed away, and her cat would just sleep in the dad's room for like the whole week. And I just think that's you undermine how much emotions animals have, and then we undermine how the lack of emotion humans have. So there you go.
That poem about the spider. Have you heard about it?
No, good shit.
It's really sad actually. It's like my sister doesn't like spiders. When she heard it, she just every time she looks at a spider, she's like, I can't do it. It's about I just remember one line of the poem. It says, was my only crime like being seen? You know, like I mean, when I'm saying it doesn't sound as deep as in comparison to when you read it, but it was more of my only, crime was being seen, literally living, and it was just crazy depressing. Like it was, I think it was like from the spy's point of view, and it was like, oh, maybe if I had a waggy, like a fluffy tail, and a tongue, and maybe if I look like this, then I'd get the same affection that you give these other animals, but because I'm skinny and straight, you don't want to show me that love.
I think that what kind of strikes me, I just think what's happening around the world is the only reason that they come from a certain area in the world that they are being massacred, and I think that's something that poem is very pertinent. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Samrah, do you have any thoughts?
On the first part, on the poem, or the second part that you've just mentioned there,
On the poem.
On the poem,
the poem.
Yeah, I agree with the poem because and that's why when you first asked the question about speaking to animals, at this point in the way the world is, and we've turned such a blind eye for almost 100 years to our fellow Palestinis, and how much it's affected the rest of us as well. I just sometimes think in that sense animals might be better, and then equally as much I think we forget that animals are also Allah's creation. Even an ant, things that we might walk past might be an inconvenience to us every day in our daily lives, or we might even be scared of. I think I understood the line in the poem when you said it without the full context of the poem as well, and I think it needs to be said sometimes that they're just trying to coexist as well like the rest of us. And you're right, I think sometimes maybe, as I've said, it's an inconvenience, or we with our selfish needs stomp them out. And didn't like a spider protect the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well? So we forget the power of animals.
I say all of this, but I'm really scared of spiders. And I'm also scared of cats, and I'm scared of most animals.
Really?
Yeah, same.
Oh my god.
So yeah, I just run away. But I'm not cool to animals, but
I feel like I'm more scared of people than animals at this point.
Yeah, I hear that. I agree.
I can resonate, but I think I'm very more scared of animals. I went to Turkey recently, and I'm very scared of cats. It's just very anxiety-inducing, but that's a separate conversation. Okay, I think thank you for sharing that poem. I think it's very insightful, and I think we can resonate in so many different levels. So we are going to be coming to the end in the first half, but I just want to ask a couple more questions before we do delve into the main topic, which I'm really excited to be discussing. The next question I have is, would you rather live a short life of adventure or a long life spent in comfort? And I'm going to ask Farah this.
That's tough. I would like to do both. I would like to have a comfortable life. Also, I'd love to travel as well, so that's a tough one.
Question asked, or so you have to pick one.
Oh no.
I think a life of comfort. I'm just a bit of a homebody sometimes.
I 100% agree. But at the same time, I don't know. I feel like a long life of comfort would maybe get too comfortable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean,
Yeah.
can you have some adventure?
No, I think it's very binary. That's
It's purely just sitting in your house.
comfort can be described and defined in many multiple ways.
It's true.
Samrah, what's your thoughts?
I would probably choose the adventure part, and it's because the world has so much to offer if you just give it a chance and you go to the right places to find it. And I also think sometimes that's a thrilling side of it, experiencing the adventure in life itself. But I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie, and
Can you tell us any experiences that you've had a lot of adrenaline?
oh god, sorry, I'm just going a bit blank at the moment, trying to think of one. I love like
Any
high
interesting
speeds.
travels?
So I think the
I
last
can see you're in
most
a car.
exciting- yeah, I think one of the most last fun experiences I did was in Morocco, taking quad bikes out into the desert. And these things aren't like the most UK safety standard, to the point, wallah girls, they were igniting and starting the car by putting two wires together. And I remember having a bit of anxiety as I got in it. I was like, maybe this isn't safe, like I'm used to the British standard. I don't know, this is a recipe for disaster, and you always hear horror stories. But then I just remember going at full speed in the Sahara Desert and absolutely loving it, to the point where my husband was like, come back, like you're moving off the trail into the middle of the desert. But I'm more than happy to do stuff like that and say YOLO.
I'm glad that sounds very exciting. I don't think I would have done it. I'm scared of spiders, so I don't think I would risk my life like this.
I would love to do that. I would absolutely love to do that.
I can tell you.
I'll take it as a compliment.
It's very good, very good, very exciting. I'll have my final question because we only have a couple of minutes for the end of the show, and I think this ties up within the next half of our show in terms of Muslims in the workplace. So, Farah, I'm going to ask you: would you rather achieve all your career goals, but have no time for family, or have a fulfilling family life but never achieve your career ambitions?
Wow, that's a tough choice. I feel like if you do all your career first, would you be lonely? You wouldn't have any family members around. You wouldn't have your own family. That's a tough choice.
Samrah, do you have your thoughts? I'll give Farah some time to think about it.
I used to think that like focusing on my career and achieving everything, not achieving everything, sorry, but like maybe just putting my career first in everything would be the best thing. But actually, the more that I've worked and went through, like now I've just reached 30, and you know what, my work isn't my personality. You switch careers so well. In my position, I've switched companies, and I can change the path of my career very, very quickly. And as much as you spend like maybe those hours during a week with your employees, your coffin, and your grave doesn't say like best employee, it will say mother, sister, like friend. And I think it's also the community that you build around you that become your family, friends that become family along the way too. So I would rather opt for having a life maybe that has more family and community and the people element rather than the career. And that's just my take on where I am.
I think those points are very pertinent. I think a lot of people who are starting off their career might be quite surprised by this, but actually I very resonate with that. Luckily for the listeners, we will be talking about this in the next half. So we do see you in 5 minutes or so. Please do join us. Assalamu alaikum.
In Luton and its surrounding areas, it's now time for Salat al-Asr. Luton police
God,
that
that was such a
I know, I
such a
just I
crazy
was like,
question.
what do I say? Like, what do I say to that? 'Cause
One
it's
hundred
like,
family, obviously family, that. I resonate with her.
I don't want to. I already have a career at this point. I want to stay at home, chill my
yeah, but I want both. Like, because sitting at home alone, it's a bit boring as well. You know?
Send me her number, please. I'll put her on the phone.
Huh?
Send me her number, please. I'll put her on the phone.
She's funny. I like her.
She's,
So
the connection's really bad. It's just better if you have her on the phone.
okay, send it to us because the next one's actually really important.
Yeah.
I don't check. I don't check my phone and the shows.
No, that was fine because it wasn't so bad that like the radio, like it was bad on the radio, but it's just from a trained ear. I was like,
Oh, no. She was funny. I liked it. Throw some water.
sorry, I was supposed to bring you guys cups. I couldn't find them.
I've got Powerade if anyone wants it. I haven't opened it.
But I think you know what Samrah said about like when you're grade, it's gonna say mother daughter. That hit home. That was. What is it to you? That hit home.
I think somebody didn't realize that Ashton died.
I know.
Is that
But I
bad?
think I know because you so
invested in
this thing. Yeah, like if you're so engulfed in
Let me tell you
it.
something. They will replace you. You die.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
They will put your advert out. They don't care about you.
Yeah.
And I hate the fact that corporate companies leverage this by calling you family. Like, my work business to be family. No, we're not family.
Yeah.
And you don't take care of me as a family.
Yeah.
You don't behave as me. I'm
Yeah.
not your family.
It's like the same with nursing. Do you know that? Yeah, but we work together. We're not even a team.
I know, but I think like when you sent it like that, it's like, well, obviously you want family, but then also you want to work a little. You don't want to sit at home doing nothing at all, right? So it's a bit of both. But I do agree, like that point which you mentioned about on your road, it's going to say daughter of, and it just reminded me of my grandma died, and it said like mother too.
Can you
like,
just
know?
tell her
I
that?
was like,
Calling her that it's her phone.
oh yeah, I'll just tell her.
That's so sad. Do you know that? Yeah, it's true, isn't it? I was so nervous in the first bit. I was literally about to start reading.
Yeah, I was like, where are the questions you sent? Where are they? Like these are on the list.
I thought I was meant to be reading the pink bit and then the pink bit.
Oh, I forgot to tell you.
I was like, that's what I was like, because I thought we were gonna read the pink bit and then I read the numbers. So I was like, yeah, and then I was like, numbers. Let's go.
Yeah, I forgot to that. That's what I did think I forgot that.
I was not clear.
I'll say, I should have said it because she used to talk about Palestine, but she didn't say much.
Yeah, she did say, what?
Oh, she's Palestine. She's a big support person.
Yeah,
She's
she was
voted
very
very-
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
she's
know if you can see it.
no, I couldn't see it.
You can see
It's
it
on her LinkedIn and everything. You know, these are off right. They have somebody complained in the office, in the office because they saw her LinkedIn and they called her up at her office and her manager's like, yeah, and that's her private views. We're not gonna get involved.
Fair enough. I respect it. I
Yeah, her manager's actually really good. They could have turned around like, you know.
You know what's crazy though is the NHS didn't say anything about like actually you know what I say that, but all the nurses and the doctors that I've met that wear the Palestinian flags on their lanyards and stuff, they didn't do it ever.
Mhm.
So it's funny.
I feel like we would like in our company they made a policy out. So they got a new policy recently and it's like, well, you can't wear any political symbols. And it's like, Ukraine.
Yeah.
You know, I just suddenly now you got a new policy out.
That's
Literally,
fine. I connected her on the
and
phone.
they had the where the yellow and
later on.
they do that at schools and
I know.
everything. And then my brother wore his uniform is like grey,
Oh my God,
red,
it's so ridiculous,
and
like,
white,
he's in the
and he had green scarf. He's like, he's only 10 years old, but you know what I mean? It's like little kids, and they sent a letter out.
It's
Some of
like
them just him.
but yeah, I just remember the telephone
I
fader up.
forgot one and what's that?
3.
105.1
Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome back to Sisters Speak. You're here with me, Mariam. Also joined with us is Alia, Farah and Samrah. The first half we just discussed our thought of the week and we just discussed our thoughts on different would you rather questions. But in this half we'll be talking about our main topic, which is Muslims in the workplace. As we mentioned in the first half, the reason why we chose this topic is because we think it's very pertinent in terms of exploring how I think it's very pertinent in exploring how, as Muslim professionals, how we navigate the workplace, but also highlighting the challenge that comes across due to our identities. So I'm going to start off the show by asking Samrah the first question, which is, can you share with us your journey into your current position and some key milestones that helped you to excel in your career? think that's what an incredible accolade for your CV in terms of what you have achieved. I think I'm very excited to kind of delve more into that. But I think on the point of people's misconception about having a specific trajectory and how if you do a certain degree you must pursue a career in that. Can you discuss a little bit more on that in terms of, is there scope to pivot from one area to another, and how can young people reconcile that, or young professionals? I think those are very important points, and I think that one of the skills that you have to develop when you're in the working world is to be agile. And in order for you to do that is to be able to recognize what is serving you and what isn't, and where you can improve. And just trying new things is very underrated. I think people don't realize that it's okay to fail and it's okay to try new things. Some things will work for you, some things won't. But that's how you kind of figure out what suits you best and what you enjoy. Farah, I'm going to ask you the same questions about your journey. You worked in telecommunications, you worked in consultancy. So can you just share your story with us?
Yeah, sure. So I work within the cybersecurity industry. So I graduated in 2017 with a degree in computer security and forensics. I actually struggled to find a graduate job or a graduate scheme for about 2 years. So it was 2 years of persevering and applying constantly until I managed to land a graduate scheme at Holt, where I met Samrah actually. And so I was on a grad scheme, but it was specific to cybersecurity. So it was rotating across different areas in cybersecurity, from business continuity to risk, and to physical security as well. And then from there, that was about 2 years, just over 2 years, and then I moved into the consulting industry. Where I've worked in 2 different consulting firms. My previous job was as an information security analyst, and I'm currently now doing auditing. So it's information security auditing, so vastly different to things I've been doing previously.
And I think it's really important to kind of make that point that you can pivot. And I think there's this whole trending tweet on a pivot to tech, where people were coming from medicine and different industries and they wanted to pivot to tech. And I think those kind of those kind of things are now quite reoccurring in terms of how people view the work kind of stream in the workforce. But on the note, in terms of your experiences, I think one of the things I want to kind of focus on is that 2-year period, because I think a lot of the times, especially I think with LinkedIn, we always kind of share the successes, but people who don't really talk about the struggles. And I think for myself, it took me around 2 years as well to land my first real job, and that was due to COVID. And I think one of the things that people undermine is mentorship, and I want to kind of discuss that a little bit further. But I think in terms of perseverance, what kind of tangible things were you doing to make sure that you didn't deplete in terms of your motivation, but also how did you make sure that you were keeping yourself abreast of different skills and making sure that you're going to be you're ready for the
So first, I had the motivation in the sense that I wanted to do a grad scheme, and I was very dead set on getting the grad scheme. I didn't want to take on any other level role or just kind of move over to a generic IT role. It was what I wanted to do, and so I was focused on getting that goal. And so I was constantly applying for roles like that. But in the meantime, GDPR was a big thing at the time. So I took a course in GDPR, and then ended up working at a smaller consultancy firm doing GDPR for them. And then here in Luton, a local firm here doing GDPR for them here as well. And those skills that I learned, you'd be surprised how closely related data protection and information security are. So I do feel like the skills that I had learned from those jobs and from that course really helped me be able to get that graduate scheme in cybersecurity, as it was a skill set that not many people had at the time, and it was quite new. And so when I was doing my interview, there was a lot of questions regarding that, from what I remember. So there was a keen interest in that. So just because my degree wasn't in that, or it wasn't, it wasn't the exact path into the career that I wanted, it was still like a stepping stone into that. So maybe take a step back, look what courses you can do or skills that you need that would still help you in the career that you want to go into, and see if you can get a role in that or do a course in that can help you further down the line.
I think it's really important, the point that you made in terms of understanding what the picture is. And I think it's very easy to have a one-dimensional view, especially if I'm fixated on the outcome. However, I think it's important to recognize that there's many directions to get to that outcome, and perhaps you persevered one way and it's not working for you. It just means you need to redirect yourself. And I think that the point that you made on learning what skills are actually very pertinent at that time is very important, because it gives you leverage. And when you are doing interviews, it makes you stand out through coding, even communication skills, all these kind of things. You have to show how can you add value to the team, because most workplaces, they want someone that can create value, and someone that can create convenience, and someone that problem solve. Those are kind of the main requisites of any kind of team, because you want to be indispensable. So thank you for sharing those. I think those are really insightful remarks. I think one thing I want to discuss, because we are talking about Muslims in the workplace, and I think identity is very important when we're thinking about navigating the workforce. The concept that I want to kind of discuss is the idea of assimilation and integration. And I think there's often a discussion about the difference between assimilating and integrating. But I want to kind of discuss, how does this impact Muslims in the workplace? And Samrah, I'm going to hand it to you for you to discuss. Absolutely. I think having that sense of belonging is really important for anyone to have a place of work where they are thriving rather than just surviving. And I think, Vara, what I want to ask you is, what's been your experience in terms of navigating this assimilation versus integration?
Um, for me, my graduate scheme was actually a really, really good example of this. When I had joined, my manager already knew I was Muslim because he had interviewed me and he'd seen me wear a scarf. So when I joined, he was like, he said that he wants to take me out for lunch. And he's like, I've been searching for an hour trying to find halal food, but I can't find anything. And I thought I was so shocked by that because I was like, he's been looking, it's like trying to find halal food, and then he's like, well, I can't find anything. Well, we can go to Subway. You can get something vegetarian. And then so it was like that open mind. And then when he realized, he was like, oh, you probably need to pray. So he's the one who went and showed me where the prayer room was. And then he was like, oh, like I know another girl who's Muslim, and that was Samrah. And he's like, well, I'll introduce you to Samrah because then you'll have another friend that's Muslim, and she can show you where the things are in the prayer room. So it was a very good experience in that sense. Like there was a lot of support from him, and he obviously knew that there are times that we pray, and so he was happy for me to just take the 5 minutes, go and pray and come back. Never questioned that. So that was really fresh for me. Like he was quite a young manager, I think he was in his early 30s. So that was quite nice. And since then in my consulting firms, there's large Muslim networks. And so I feel like a lot of the groundwork has been done thanks to those Muslim networks. So people already know. It was just a case of me just saying to the manager, I'm just going to pop out 5 minutes just to go pray. And oftentimes they're accommodating and then they'll let you. So in that sense, I've been quite lucky.
I think that recurrent thing between both of you is that it's vocalizing what your needs are. And I think it's really important to have those dialogues with your management chain. But I think a lot of the times these management chains, they're a bit worried about having these conversations because they want to be sensitive. If they're good management chains, they want to be sensitive, but they don't know how to confront this. So for you to move forward, I think the onus is, of course, on the management chain to open that conversation. But I think a lot of the times the responsibility does fall on ourselves, and it shouldn't be the case. I think management should have cultural competence to understand and have training with unconscious bias to understand that people have diverse needs. But I think we haven't come to that space yet, and so therefore, as Muslims in the workplace, we have to take that initiative to make sure that we're leaving the groundwork, so then the future generation are able to comfortably pray and comfortably be unapologetic about their faith and comfortably be able to be in socials. I think understanding different needs. For example, I think especially when you're in the corporate space, we're thinking about dietary needs. One example is halal food, and then you think about veganism. Veganism is something that's really it's pertinent from all kind of aspects, and I think people are more aware of this because in terms of animal rights, but at the same time they're not understanding different ideologies in terms of Muslims. So I think it's really trying to kind of vocalize that. But I think one of the things that I feel that perhaps people generally might feel that vocalizing your needs may impede you from securing certain milestones in your work progression. And how do people reconcile that? Because if you seem the kind of individual that seems less affable or isn't someone that assimilates, then you're seen that kind of regarded as a difficult one. So how do you kind of navigate those feelings, Samrah, and have you ever experienced it? I think that's really important. Thank you for sharing those experiences. I think I resonate with that very, very much in terms of making the decision to whether you're going to have to balance between being unapologetic about your values and thinking about your career progression. And I think you just have to take the leap of faith and realize that actually, are you going to be happy when you're being morally conflicted? You're never going to be happy. And I think that's why it's really important to rebuild that faith within yourself and be very unapologetic about your identity. But one thing that I wanted to discuss, and we are in the very, very show, which is quite sad, is about the role of allies. And I think Samrah just discussed how her management team is not from a Muslim descent or Muslim background. I want to just ask Farah, how can non-Muslim colleagues act as allies to create a more inclusive and supportive environment?
So like I said, having these open discussions, having these networks at your work, whether they're diversity networks or these Muslim networks, you can go and learn from, and having training. But I also think that, the individual itself should be open. You're Muslim, and at the end of the day, this life is temporary, and you're not going to change your values just because of a job. And I think being open about that and saying, I need to pray during Ramadan, I might need flexible hours, and just being in a nice way, just explaining the situation. Oftentimes people are accommodating. And if they're not, then like Samrah said, then you need to, evaluate whether that is the best decision for you to stay there and whether they're going to support you or not, and if it's better for you to just leave.
I agree. And I think for me personally, what I've seen in my own career is that when I took the leap of faith, I feel like Allah elevated me and I ascended to something far more greater than what I was at the beginning. And I think just having good thoughts about Allah is really, really important. I think one of the things really networking, broaden your network, because you really need mentorship, especially when you're navigating careers and reaching out to Muslims, using LinkedIn as a tool to be able to reach out to people who are in career positions that you want to go to. I think it's something that we really undermine, and I think having those communication skills and really really persevering to kind of build that network and paving that path for yourself.
And even like, in your company, if there's someone that's Muslim that you think that in the position that you want to be in, maybe just reach out to them and have a conversation and say, what steps did you take to get to this position? What challenges did you face and how can I overcome those challenges? And, kind of have a mentor relationship with that person because they're Muslim as well. And they're in the position that you want to be in, maybe in 5, 10, 15 years time.
Yeah, I think, and in addition to that, I think thinking about, your mentor necessarily does not need to be Muslim as well. I think we're talking about allyship. There are people that are willing to help you irrespective of what background or ideology that they attribute to you. And I think that's something we should also discuss because we don't want to have a vision. And actually, in a way, when you're having those conversations with mentors who are not from your faith, actually that will trigger some thinking about them and their policy thinking in the future when they are empowering young people or just people in general. Samrah, I have a question for you. What advice would you give young Muslims professionals entering the workforce today, particularly in navigating an excelling in the cultural environment? Absolutely. I think one of the things that I should mention as well, don't isolate yourself. I think when you, especially when you're confronted with these kind of challenges, it's really important to be part of a community and don't go through all of these challenges alone. I think if you're experiencing it, it's very likely that someone else on your team or someone within your directorate or someone within your organization that probably has been through this and they've overcome it. So don't be afraid to reach out to people and have these conversations. I think isolating yourself and alienating yourself, it won't serve you. And I think I can empathize as well that it's very difficult to articulate sometimes what you feel, because sometimes it's intangible and you kind of undermine your own experiences. But I think having a strategy in place is really important. So if you know that you want to have a certain career progression and you feel like the cards are against you and you don't feel that there's a tangible steps in place, then you need to just redirect yourself. So I think those kind of points are really important. But Farah and Samrah, thank you so much for joining us today. Those are really important points that we discussed, and we look forward to having you again, inshallah, on the show. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. That's really sad because I would even mention 4 questions out of 10.
Flip it out.